Reading 4. I Met You in a Story, 2nd edition, Bob Jones University Press. Dick Whittington and His Cat. Adapted by Karen Wilt. Illustrated by Dana Thompson and Dyke Habegger. Dick Whittington was a real person who lived in England during the 14th century. He started out as a poor boy and then earned an education and wealth for himself. He was Lord Mayor of London 3 times. The people loved him, and many stories sprang up about his rise to fortune. The following story is a folk tale from England about Dick Whittington. Today, it is a popular story throughout the English-speaking world. To find a fortune. Dick Whittington dunked his blistered feet in the cool mud along the banks of the Thames River. His stomach growled at him, but his tattered pocket didn't have even a crumb of bread left from the crust he had saved and eaten for breakfast. "A job is what I need," he muttered. "But who would hire a starving urchin like me?" He shuffled through the thin grass along the shore until most of the mud had wiped off, though some of it stuck and dried. He remembered the words of the Muffin Man in Colchester. "London streets are built of gold brick," he had exaggerated. "The windows are cut diamonds, and no one goes hungry there." "Then I'm off to London to find my fortune," Dick had said. But the horses and carriages riding out of London didn't boast the riches the Muffin Man had told of. Dick Whittington had begun to wonder. Now he walked under London Bridge, tired and hungry. Buildings towered above him. Bells in church spires rang. People hurried by, nearly trampling the boy in their haste. At last, Dick Whittington collapsed on a doorstep. He rested his whirling head on the smooth marble banister. "Off with you," a red-faced maid said, opening the door and brandishing a wet mop in Dick's direction. "And where should I be off to?" he asked. The maid leaned against her mop and sighed. "No mum or dad?" she said. "Both killed by the plague." "For shame," the maid said. "Well, come in. Me master's looking for a boy. But you're more than a bit scrawny." "Oh, but I'll grow. I know I will. My dad was a great giant of a man, and everybody says I'm exactly like he was." The maid squinted her eyes. "Sure, but giants eat a lot, and such as that we can't be feeding." "But that's what we were saying. I'm just a scrawny bit of lad." The maid burst into a fit of laughter, turning her face an even brighter shade of red. "Such a wit as you've got is just what we may be needing in a solemn house as we have." And so Dick Whittington became the errand boy for Merchant Lockhart. From morning till evening he ran about London, buying this or ordering that, delivering messages, or doing whatever the merchant required. Life would have been more than enjoyable except for 2 small problems. One was Alice, the merchant's beautiful daughter. Alice made Dick stutter whenever she bid him good day, and made him blush to the roots of his hair whenever she glanced his way from under her long black eyelashes. His heart turned somersaults whenever she smiled her two-dimpled smile. The other problem was the attic where he slept. It had rats. Every night the rats raced beneath his cot and chewed the corners of his blanket as he slept. Dick took care of the rat problem. On the day Merchant Lockhart paid him his first penny, he hurried to the market and bought a fine cat. This cat was no ordinary Mauser. It had 6 toes on each paw, weighed at least 25 pounds, and had eyes that could spot a flea on the tip of a mouse's ear. Every night the Mauser caught 2 fat rats and left them outside the doorsteps to show his master what a fine job he could do. Dick Whittington grew very fond of the cat and even let him follow him as he ran errands. The cat pleased Alice too. She combed the Mauser's fur until it shone, and Dick could hear him purr for her. If I weren't just a pauper, I should someday ask for her hand in marriage, he thought to himself. Best Mauser in London. One day, Dick brought the message of return of Merchant Lockhart's ships to port. Merchant Lockhart clasped Dick's hand. "Good news, indeed, lad," he said. "'Twill be the making of riches for me this year." Then he rubbed his hands. "'Twas the quickest passage she's ever made. I'll have her outfitted and ready to leave port again in less than a month. Dick, my boy, 'tis good news indeed, and you shall be rewarded." He scratched his head. "How would you like to send something on my next ship to Barbary? Do you have anything of value?" Dick's eyes grew wide. Then his look of excitement exchanged a look of disappointment. "The only thing I own is my cat," he said. "He's the best Mauser in London, but I'm afraid he's of no true value." Merchant Lockhart shook his head. "No, a cat has little value, but we'll send him and see." Dick trudged home, dragging his heels. His cat lay on the stone wall that surrounded Merchant Lockhart's house. Alice skip-roped inside the gate. Just then the bells in the church spires began to ring, and Alice sang and jumped to their rhythm, smiling at Dick. "Turn again, Whittington, Lord Mayor of London." Her eyes were teasing. Dick felt his face grow warm. He knew he was blushing. He picked up his cat and trudged to his attic room. "Oh, I wish I could tell you to behave yourself in Barbary," Dick said. The cat rubbed his head against Dick's chin. "If ever I can, I'll come visit you there," he said. The cat started to purr. "Oh, I'll miss you, you old cat," Dick said, and he buried his head in the cat's thick fur. The next day Dick watched the ships sail down the Thames and out of sight. The captain's boy had promised to care for the cat. All the sailors had admired his 6-toed feet. They had gasped at his weight, all 25 pounds, when they had lifted him on board. And they saw from the shine in his eyes that he truly was a good Mouser. The months passed slowly. Dick had been to the market to search for another Mouser, but none matched his old cat. Still, Alice teased him and sang, "Turn again, Whittington, Lord Mayor of London." Dick blushed, but no quick wit came to his head to return to her. He knew he would never have enough money to marry Alice and care for her as a good husband must. Then, one rainy morning, Dick could bear it no more. He packed his meager belongings in a scrap of material and slung it over his shoulder. London was no city of riches for him to find fortune in. Slowly his feet carried him out the door and down the cobblestone streets. Great London Bridge loomed over the Thames River. Dick remembered the day he had squished his toes in mud. A flock of ravens flew by, and their dark feathers reminded him of Alice's long black curls and her teasing eyes under long black eyelashes. The bells in the church spires began to ring, just as Dick had heard them ring that first day in London. But this time, maybe because he was thinking of Alice, or maybe because he had left without eating breakfast, they seemed to say, "Turn again, Whittington, Lord Mayor of London." Dick heard it again as the bells pealed out the hours across London town. Slowly his feet turned around, and Dick found himself walking back. The fog had lifted as he crossed London Bridge again, past churches and looming buildings, down the cobblestone to the marble doorstep of Merchant Lockhart's. As he reached the bottom step, the door flew open, and Alice and her father dashed out. "Dick, my boy, where have you been?" Merchant Lockhart asked. "You have just become a rich man." Dick blinked his eyes. "Me?" he asked. The merchant thumped him on the back. "Yes, Dick. It seems the royal palace of Barbary was infested with rats. The captain of my ship sold your cat for a king's ransom." Alice smiled from behind her long black eyelashes, and her dimples laughed at Dick. Dick smiled back. "I knew he was the best Mouser in all of London," he said.